computer. That's done. And then, okay, and what we then can do, I can share with you again that we go to the presentation. It's maybe good to do that. But I really appreciate your input, what you even give me, where you see still the element where people are doubting, how can we connect all the data together? That's really the key point.
I mean, you saw it in the few videos I had shared with you.
Yeah.
You know, from my days at with Baan, with you going back to 1993. So we have been kind of married together for the last 29 years. And you know, when I was president of the user group, going everywhere, and even when we were using it at WireRope, it was always the challenge. How do you connect the data to the enterprise and to make sure that you connect it to reality? And you know, Jan, what was kind of I've been working on bridging that gap. You know, when I went to meet with you guys in 2012, I think at the Cordys event, I saw some amazing things with what you were doing back then. But you know, that challenge of connecting the data in a way that can flow into the enterprise, in a way that is useful and helping, because you were mentioning, you know, executives, CIOs have a hard time to grab some of your concept.
Yeah.
But the reality is they may drive a Tesla and they may not understand the whole thing behind the Tesla because there's some magic.
Yeah, that's true.
So you know, back 4 years ago, I was watching Franz Farber from SAP.
Yeah.
And then I've been watching Bill McDermott since 2007 as well.
Yeah.
And I've been following his evolution within SAP, and I realized at one point where he got stuck. And Franz Farber on that event, it was a user event, spoke about that gap.
Yeah.
And to this day, I was watching Jim Balsillie a few days ago talking at the Empire Club of Toronto. The gap is only getting bigger because, as you mentioned, the top 5 companies have a value of close to $10 trillion, which is almost half of the S&P, and they have some magic. That it's not fair that only them can have this. It should be available to everyone. So I think, you know, your work and maybe what we can discuss together for in the future.
It's very good. Let me first share the screen, 1 second. And if I share this presentation, 1 second, let me come in. What I'd like to do, you and okay, we even bring it in moment. Yep. Okay, and then if I bring this little the stuff, maybe it's good still. Okay, if I go to my journey, but 1 second, we real maybe see again, and I will come back, say, you know, from System of Records that you were presenting there, our North American user group was, you had to say 2 important roles. First of all, as an important user, but at the other end, you have seen the total view worldwide in those years, where we as Baan had real impact in manufacturing companies. And if you're looking back all those years with custom order decouple point, we did it from India. We were totally different than the other players, I should say a little bit, especially winning the Boeing deal was propelling us in the IPO and then in Baan. But okay, now for me, I'm still more, I should say, and I was more an entrepreneur than an investor. And after 20 years, I figured out those days, especially when I invested in WebEx and Top Tier a little later, I figured out that everything we did here had nothing to do with the browser. It was before the internet. And by the way, today you can see it everywhere. If you go to SAP, to Oracle, to Infor with Baan products, they're all developed the century before. You can see it. Now, and then second, no multi-tenant and all the stuff. But I should say extremely strong by system of records, by the transactional know-how, best practice. Those days, from maybe the most complete part was ERP. By far more completer than CRM, etc. Now, what then I learned on my investment, because I used part of my money and had some, say, investing some things in the pipeline of Baan. I blocked some things blocked my shares to have some loans and invested in, especially in Top Tier and WebEx. I invested more than maybe more than 100 million in these two small companies, but they were still very small Silicon Valley companies, understanding cloud, understanding browsers, understanding portals, etc. And WebEx was in the early infancy of it, but they used our money to give WebEx away free for freemium, and that has propelled WebEx. Now, but my idea was not making my money in WebEx and top tier, but using the benefit of these companies in the slipstream of Baan. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, that was not successful because over time, Baan became part of Infor and I quit more and more because I saw that it was over. The show was over. Now, and then I moved, especially you've seen that also on the Cordys event, you have followed both. That's quite unique. Not so many people followed, but you have followed me in Cordys, where everything was focusing on the business process. And on the same moment later, I used the, more or less, I should say, the knowledge from here, and we built some things what we say, do it yourself in Cordys, simplify it. We call this as a Lotus Notes killer doing the workflow. That means it was on top of the BPM platform, more an element where we could do this stuff therein. And then later on, I was able to at least take this back. But before coming there, let me first say the following. Jan, all the years I was involved in R&D myself. And I was quite involved with every investment in R&D myself. That means if I counted all the money, at least a few hundreds of millions have been invested in R&D. And for me, I'm feeling some things like all this money, more and more in my vision in 2005 was propelled to do some things like the process factory. And later on, to go more in what we say from system of differentiation, more and more have given me a chance to go to the third wave is systems of innovation. Yeah. And that is what we doing now today, and take data, etc., and do some things with what we really say code generation with our EVA stuff and building some applications and using even Google element. But now what you mentioned before was the core element is the data is not all connected to the end. We see still that these backend solutions are isolated and what we're doing. And life is not digital. It's maybe PDF. Because on the end, people are becoming with some things like maybe a spreadsheet, etc. But okay, focusing on it. Now, you've seen in the 80s that our secret in Baan was the famous Baan shell. And a lot of elements are still coming together what we do today. We were in Baan able, we had Unix, you see now everything therein, and then we were able to use our, say, pseudo language, converted to C, we were database independent, operating system independent, we could run on every CPU, and we built our libraries as managers in the Baan shell. Although the Baan shell is not used like Progress did, it could have been a tool like Progress for selling tools. But we have given higher priority on our customers for our application instead of selling our tools. Now, but over time, the Baan shell could have been a tool platform for developers. But okay, now, but we learned a lot here. And I should say, now you were really in favor of it, but especially maybe Baan 4, and even in those areas in 95 already, it was a smart way where we were able to build all our processes like master project scheduling and master planning. Boeing had one solution for all these 40,000 users and one instance. That was still, I believe, still those days, amazing technology. And nice done. The data models were clean, crispy. Now, and that was maybe our differentiator by SAP and Oracle. But you have maybe, what was your feeling those days when you run Baan?
I mean, what really inspired me in what you were doing back then was the thought of dynamic systems.
Yeah, that was a crucial point.
It was not just an ERP static system. The thought that you had from the beginning to make it dynamic.
And event-driven approach.
Yeah, exactly. So that was really the big thing, that kind of where you stood out of the crowd. You know, this was your thinking of that dynamic thinking that was making it like amazing.
No, and therefore we had an easier solution. But I came to a conclusion. Now, far back, when although Baan was mentioned by the analysts as maybe SAP the biggest, Baan the best, especially maybe what you just mentioned by that dynamic stuff, easier, event-driven, and most people, if they make a choice for Oracle, it was more the database, and they like to do their own development, or if they take logic, it was SAP or Baan, and database independency. Now, amazing, but I was frustrated realizing that what we did in end of the 90s have nothing to do with the internet. Now, and that was, in my opinion, therefore, we started again from Cordys. And even after 11 years, 12 years, in 99, I started Cordys, but after 12 years, 30 years, we saw that the analysts was ranking Cordys as in two areas. One was quite strong in the BPM layer, maybe even number one on top of Oracle and IBM with WebSphere and Oracle with Fusion. We did even an OEM deal with Fujitsu using our Cordys functionality, but as one. Maybe on top of an Appian and a Pega. And with the Process Factory, we were also quite involved with platform as a service. And although they ranked Salesforce as number one, but they even were ranking this analyst already Cordys as a number two in platform as a service. And my idea was that this was a strong element. If you do the integration and if you do the platform, etc., is maybe interesting. Now, that means, although becoming a little more critical, I figured out later on, even with this, the Cordys Process Factory, with the provisioning, with the operation platform in Cordys, we could not deliver the promising to have a seamless approach for one platform aligning IT and business. We could not understand the business users. And that was, in my opinion, still a problem. It was too complicated those days with SOA and everything. And second, we learned also that we cannot replace ERP, although we did here some things like zero coding, but low code was not even powerful enough. In many cases, you have to go back to the BAPIs from SAP and even in Baan for GL to do the bespoke. Now, and that is maybe the input, what we have from the past, what we know fixing with EVA in both elements.
Yeah.
Now, and yeah, we've learned also that although we were leaders in SOAP with XML, we could use every operating system, link them together with XML and connect them in a BPM layer. And we could do this, what we called case management, these nice slim lines. Now, it was great stuff, but even SOAP was too complicated from all these incompatibilities, etc. And it was still struggling. And I learned, although we're talking digital and we have everything on the internet with IT and business, but it's nothing more than PDF. That means it's not digital. Now, that's even, in my opinion, today. Now, and then looking a little from another angle, okay, it was nice what we did, but Portal had some ideas with operating effectiveness to make everything, say, unique, but we are making more and more every company the same. Yeah. More and more we see they have all the same transactional handling systems and doing all the stuff. That means we are disturbed and we could not make Porter's vision doing it even with the strategy and operating effectiveness, because we have our vision was more and more disturbed with the legacy system. They all became the same. And there's still no end-to-end process. And we do not have one version of the truth. And what we mentioned before, you cannot have all those data for artificial intelligence, machine learning together on one data stream. Yeah. And for me, crucial, it is not real digital because we are missing dynamic workflow. With Baan, we had dynamic applications in the silo. In Cordys, we did the same in the process, but now we move to the dynamic workflow. And we see the problem is that it's nothing more than on the end that we have PDF and it's done by spreadsheet. And companies are looking more and more the same. That was my opinion.
I totally agree with you.
And that's real simple if you look to it now. And then in this world we learned, and I came to the conclusion, that I spent millions and millions, especially in Cordys, to do build a state machine, building SOA APIs, But yeah, we were too naive, and even we were not aware that the REST API internet has so much more, and it's commoditized and it's consumerized. Now, and that means I again was say burning my ships and take my experience and adopt the REST API. And the REST API is powerful enough to integrate all those layers. That means we don't need longer. Therefore, I say BPM is obsolete. We don't need them longer. And I'm now propelled with the extremely strong power of a Google platform. Now, although it could be Amazon, but I'm in favor of Google, looking to the amazing stuff they're offering. Now, that means, and then we built our low-code stuff with Eva that immediately we can go, and later on I will explain you more, but it brings me a beachhead to go to the real business owner and then adopt the knowledge of the business owner and generate it into source code, and then in Java source code open. And that means that I've given me the element of from dynamic applications to a dynamic workflow. Now that's crucial. And it means also that we're now using new technology instead of doing everything in a big data model with 100,000 with SAP 100,000 database tables by far too big. We see now with this real Kubernetes element, this containerization, all the data can be stored in an element around the logic and decoupled from other components, and they can run. And all those say containers can run as a one element in this dynamic workflow, and then with this big data, and they can connect the Internet of Things on the latest moment. That means it allows me to adopt the old stuff and improve them more and more with new stuff with this. And it for me was amazing to see the power of this, say, Kubernetes, this containerization. That makes it 100 times easier than to do it in this world. Now, and I figure out industry today are even not knowing this one.
Yeah, I mean that's the bridge that was that has been a big challenge for many still for many people.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, and now we see what my kids can do in India if they understanding this one. We generate plain Java code, and then and by hand. It's like what you mentioned in this Tesla car. There is still a steering wheel, and that means autonomous cars. Maybe we never can come there, but it's becoming more and more complicated if you look to it. The same like autonomous development, but the beauty is now we generated most, maybe 80%, but with our steering wheel, we can do our stuff in Java by hand. And in the meantime, very smoothly, we can go from Java into Python to the TensorFlow to the machine learning elements what Google and other ones are offering. Now there, I see the easy way of improving the traditional world, have the totally data stream, bring it more or less in a big data stream, but incorporated the traditional logic sift together. And then I learned in manufacturing you have two elements. One is custom order decouple point, decouple it. And the other one is late binding. And if you can do it on the latest moment, it's by 100 times simpler. Like I can use all the Internet of Things sensors in a dynamic way and adopt them here in my workflow and avoiding vendor lock-in. That means we propelling now the knowledge worker with this Eva collaborate tools, with micro apps. And the beauty is now, instead of bringing some things like in a Microsoft world, you do this, and what we do in Zoom, you can do this web meetings, but you do it with anywhere and some things like a PowerPoint or so. But we see now more and more that the Google Meet can be incorporated in the dynamic workflow instead of the other way around. Now, this is where I see the biggest benefit for the knowledge worker. That means every second you can sit on my desk and we can collaborate together. It doesn't matter where we are in the world.
Yeah, I mean, you bring the tools into the workflow, you know.
Exactly. Yep.
So, I mean, that's the old problem of the technology. Initially, you had to sign on, sign in from Baan to Salesforce, sign on, sign in. When you brought Cordys, you were kind of eliminating that step because you were putting everything on one flow,
Yep.
and now you're taking it one step above.
Exact. But we learned in the beginning of the world of the internet, we learned that enterprise should be centric and the process centric. But now we learned that more and more with the tools what we have in our hands and with skills, that the human is becoming centric and the workflow is becoming in the central point. And even the process of the enterprise can be decoupled and can bring some things into a supply chain. And entering in a supply chain, in my opinion, is only the workflow with a dynamic workflow.
Yeah.
Going there in. Now, that makes it much simpler. Now, then we learned still in Baan, we had already our relational database. It was nice with our Baan ISAM, and later on could be every database in, say, last century with system of records. But I was more in the driver's seat with my logic to bring you best practice, and you have no flexibility. Now, in Cordys, we learned that you even can do case management, and you have to end-to-end processes, end-to-end, a system of differentiation in the internet, but you're missing the element like big data. I should say the internet 2.0 stuff, etc.
Yeah.
And that is what we did here with the REST API. You see now with big data, you see that information is becoming knowledge from data. And now we see with this containerization, you see there the benefit of these containers with what I call semantic data. Now, and that will be the input that not the sensor is driving it, but is the human, that's the input for what I call the human wisdom. Like the guy on the steering wheel in the Tesla is still taking the end responsibility. But the magic underneath gives you so much information in these microservices.
Yeah. May I ask you a question?
Of course.
Is there a blockchain somewhere in there?
Yeah, but it's more, I should say, below. And but we should avoid it a little, because the problem with blockchain is you have to validate everything to the end. And blockchain can be underneath in some tools like here, because blockchain is important for the validation part, but the mining is too expensive. And now we do it for every element. We take a mining element and we mislead it also, I should say, this technology. Now, but we see more and more blockchains underneath, and all those things are coming. But in my opinion, they're becoming then part of the technology offerings what people are bringing.
No, I mean, I agree with that. That's what I thought, but I just wanted to hear that from you. Okay, that's perfect.
No, and it means, okay, what we're now doing, that we moved now after again, by 40 years, we bring now in the third layer a lot of intellectual property with our EVA and our Collabor product, later on something more. And in the meantime, we use that to first to build projects, and then later on we like to go to IP. But if you do it too early, you are maybe too poor. Now we have now some products already offering. A project space is a new product model. I will come and explain some things there. And also do something with document handling. And now we see more and more, say, Industry 4.0 components can become more or less in the future as generic components. But in the beginning, we have to do it first ourselves and bring that in. Now, and then you see it a little here, what we bring in this, the power of a Google platform that we built, especially with Valeo, 110,000 employees in the last 10 years. We built a lot of components, not only for Valeo, but I should say Industry 4.0 components in R&D, in quality, HR, finance, compliance, etc., and bring them all as individual components on top and propelled with these strong components from not agnostic, but still using the power of a Google element. And connecting the traditional world together, or replacing like the Oracle forms or Lotus Notes elements therein.
Okay.
Now, and that is here we have already some key points what we do. Now that means, and in Google, I see them quite strong in the data world. They move as one of the leaders, is where we see what they're mentioned by Forrester as analyst. From a data standpoint, they see Google on the data warehousing is absolute a leader therein. But it can be Microsoft, can be the Amazon, etc. It can be Snowflake. It means what you do some things therein. Now, and for me, we see now some new companies coming up, the Mendix and the OutSystems, the low code players, but they have a tremendous benefit of high productivity. But the negative part is they cannot do the complex stuff. And then you come back to the old stuff still. Now, we learned, and it is more the old world, the beyond what Cordys did before. And Salesforce is more still, in my opinion, a transactional system, but with nice cloud offerings, but more in a traditional way. Now, my position in Vanenburg, maybe innovative, but we are small coming up, but with this Java stuff, and I see now the benefit with Google helping me to really compete with those players. And they are more on Amazon, etc. That means, and that is where I see now my position on this moment. I say crossing the chasm means before you do it, you take care that you are innovative, that you have early adopters. Now, in my opinion, what you see too often, people say you start something, then you do an MVP. And if you have your minimum viable product, you have to be one day earlier than the customer, and you have another chance to then to make a new version. But in my opinion, if you do this, the fundamentals are not good enough. You do not understand. If I was starting 2 years ago with very smart people and a lot of money, I could never do what I have done before with all my experience from Baan and Cordys. Because I believe my 44 years of experience with Baan knowledge with Cordys, but even the Baan veterans who are still working for me, people who were with me in Baan and in Cordys and still today with me, and taking the Baan, the Cordys process factory with us. With this one, with new products, we could build solutions for early adopters. And the solution for early adopters could be generic products for many players over time, where we can scale it up with Google, in the Google Cloud.
Yeah.
If you do it too early, then you see this with this, let me say in this way, maybe that's critical. Those tool builders do not understand enterprise solutions. They understand tools for ISVs. They are not building, maybe in the beginning a little, but on the end, they are no longer building applications, complex applications themselves. They're only giving tools for the ISVs. And the ISVs are maybe even not often mature enough to build this, say, alternatives, what the SAPs did in the past and what Baan did in the past. Now, I should say, we do now both. We have the power of being one of the leaders in the world, building real generic solutions. Now, we did it now for the third wave, only for a few leading companies like a Solvay, like a Vallejo, etc. And from here, now we can propel it here. If you do it too early, then you cannot go to Industry 4.0. The only way to go to Industry 4.0 means you need early adopters. And to do it, the best adopter could be a leading automotive company. They are far ahead, by far more ahead than a Boeing, because they know, automotive knows what all this Industry 4.0 manufacturing processes are doing.
Yeah. I mean, the delta between aerospace and automotive tends to be a bit more dynamic.
Yep.
The life cycle of a car is much shorter than the life cycle of an airplane.
That's what we mean. And they take the most important components on the last moment. They procurement components are coming in 5 minutes before they assemble the car. Yeah. And by an airplane, they're coming months before already and produce it in a project.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, that is what we should learn, and we have been there. Now, that's where we focus on this one. Now, this is what I took from you. Very nice to see this, what this Frans Farr was mentioning. It was so touching to say, okay, we're missing the links, but you can explain it more, because you have heard this one. Explain it a little, the lessons you took from him.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, how do you build the link between the data that you spend a lot of money to play with, to store? How do you bring that into the operating system in a way that you can create value for the company, in a way that you can learn from the data, not just do graphical, but in a way that you can use it, in the workflow, so that you do something with that. Because if you don't connect the dots, there's zero value being created. So That is still a big challenge for many people out there.
Yeah, and that's the problem you see, because we have a kind of pseudo world. Machine learning is more, it could be something like gamification from the outside world, but it brings no value because we are missing the fundamental data from the old world, bring them together now and bring it even back. That means, no, this is what I like it very much. And then we say data is becoming the new digital gold, or be prepared for the gold rush. We often are saying, if you pray for the rain, don't be afraid for the flood. And that is more, yeah, that is more what I see here. If we realize that the new gold is coming, be prepared for the gold rush. And that is what you mentioned in the beginning. The market cap of these 5 people, these digital giants, are more than, say, if you look 10,000 billions, it with a few handful companies. And why is it that these manufacturing companies do have no market cap?
Yeah.
Because they are missing the data. And we see now that IDC is explaining that they expect 500 million apps will be built soon, more than what we did in the 40 years before. And this is the fastest growing market, is this what we really see, these tools markets and doing this stuff with low-code tools, etc. But we can handle it. We can even not find Java programmers enough to do this.
Yeah. I mean, a thing about the value and the missing link of the data is your machine learning can not learn a lot if the logic that is coming before, if there's no logic. So you need to have a logic so that you can build on top. If not, you're just adding air on a foundation that is going to fall apart. So there's no value to machine learning. So that's why you need to do the way you do it, and bring a longer flow in the logic so that you can use machine learning and all these things, more intelligently down the road.
Absolute. Now, and that's what I see here. Now, and here you see little this, say, Silicon Valley model, this 5 S's. Now, you see the mainframe world. Now, and then a small company, Microsoft, came. They make a little furore. They did an IPO, more than $1 billion, small company. Now, the company was growing, and then they moved to the internet, where we have companies with not $1 million, but 100 million of value. And then we had the amazing world of the mobility, and a few companies have more than 1,000 billion market cap. But in tomorrow's world, and there we see this market cap maybe yesterday from Alphabet, from Microsoft, from Apple, from Meta, from Amazon, and this Philips is less than maybe 1% of maybe Alphabet's market cap. Now, ASML is an amazing company, but maybe they do some technology, but still even 10% of what they're doing here. Because even ASML's data is not known. They're making smart chips for this industry, but their data is not used in machine learning, because they are like a machine builder, but they are so, say, amazing in their product, but real conservative in their IT, real infrastructure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, there was a conversation I spoke to you about where the challenge is you need to take the IP and you need to be able to follow it through the whole system. If not, you don't get the value, the market value, because you're just finding sand in the ocean. And
exactly.
But to capitalize the IP, the data, and the value, you really need to connect, the missing links and bring that and bridge the whole enterprise.
Yeah, and do it in a modern way, because the old days we could not do it because data was only relational data.
Yeah.
Although our logic was already, say, dynamic logic, we could do event-driven. We could take other elements from outside, but the data was not big data, and we had no browser, and we could not communicate. In the second world, we had metadata, my Cordys world, we had a browser, but we did not have sensor integration like IoT, and we did not have, say, big data. Now we moved with the containerization, what we call more and more in the knowledge with big data. And now with the containerization, we go to intelligence. Now, and in my opinion, this is the 5th wave where these enterprise companies, maybe over time, why could we not have 1,000 unicorns instead of only 10 companies who are controlling, and they're controlling everything only by monopoly. The only way that Apple have only devices, nothing more. And they have this unstructured data, but they have no clue what the manufacturing data means. Now, what is your vision here?
I have to say, it's the first time I see that slide from you. I just love this one. It's a great slide, you know. It's on your way to the gold.
Yeah, exact. And then we see, but you need the old stuff, and with the gold, you have to dig some things, but we can incorporate even relational database, and with BigQuery, we optimize them, and even we can deal with the old logic. It's good enough. This old SAP logic of Baan logic is still good enough for master scheduling, but here we can see the modern outside world be connected here, and then we have the benefit of both. And that's what you mean, and this guy mean, today, if you have not a data stream end-to-end, you cannot do it.
Yeah. I mean, the old transactions technically have a fraction of the value if you don't have the logic throughout the whole building, you know?
Yeah.
The executive tower is only as good as the foundation of the building, but now, you know, the value of the transactional at very low value, but when you can connect the whole, now the value goes up, and that's amazing. That's an amazing slide.
Yep. No, and that's what that's we had in common, and what we did with Eva was the following. First of all, you have to do greenfield, but Eva first mentioned enterprise vanilla applications, and looking more that we say we should respect the vanilla ERP. Therefore, Eva was built, but you can do greenfield. But even you can integrate the enterprise stuff with full flexibility and characteristics. Now go a little speed, but we built, like in Baan's time already, what I mentioned in the beginning to you, with the Baan shell, we had a lot of services included in our factory. Now this here more even, we see in Eva, we have many subcomponents. That means we have not to do how to deal with BigQuery, how to do these test cases. They're automatically, we have 0 defects. You bring them all. It's like a manufacturing. We are like becoming a manufacturing company.
Yeah.
On click, all those elements, bring them all together in. Now that allows me to, because what was our challenge? We could not say there, adopt our requirements. They were too complicated for us. There was no aligning. That was even what I mentioned in the beginning, even with Cordys, it was too complicated with SOA to go to the real in-depth manufacturing gurus to understand what is going. Now I can decouple that, and they can do it themselves. I mean, instead of all those challenges, adoption, we came to the element and say, okay, let's go like we did it in the beginning, like a spreadsheet. We use the Google Sheet in Eva. That means we could go to real professional manufacturing folks who had a PSD in their element, that they could really describe their rules in a kind of a spreadsheet, and from there we could generate. Now we simplify it much more, but immediately we can generate 70% of source code and still improve it. Now we do it in this way. That means, say, in a rapid way, we say can go out to our requirements gathering and have immediately prototyping and generate code. And we see the benefit in the same moment. These PhDs guys from manufacturing or anywhere, smart guys, they see that we can build the right solution, what I mean. We reduce the development cost, we deploy faster, and there is no vendor lock-in. Because everything is done in plain Java. Now, on the same moment, allows us with consultants who understand the business people, they gather the stuff. The tech guys can still fill the gaps with the steering wheel in the Tesla, but they do it not in BAPIs, in the old stuff. No, they do it in modern IT, because Java is representing the internet flexibility and the power to do this stuff. And from Java, immediately we can go further to Python. Now, that is a smart way to generate it, to optimize it, and to bring the same level to the machine learning. Now, that means permanently we can, so we say, refine. That means outdo our requirements, and every time do it again and again and again. Your requirements, you visualizing, your instance prototyping, and generate the code. You can play every hour a little with these guys. On the end of the day, you provide them with everything, with the rules, the use case, the data model, and they do themselves their input, not we do it. No, they themselves facilitate the input for the rules, for the list, and then the technical guys can finish it, immediately deploy it. Now, and then we see that we have a lot of manufacturing components inside. Like my 40 years of experience have brought me a lot of sub-assemblies, say the manufacturing terms, like everything around user management, like front-end screens, like back-end services, how to navigate, how to do our web service. We were one of the early bird already last century with Cordys. Now, how to do your workflow, your automatic test cases, your continuous improvement, continuous development element, coming back with zero defect, how to deal with people in Japan and Korea, and what about your mobile elements? Now, that brings me in the process to what we say, a professional guy immediately can communicate with in-depth manufacturing guys, and they fill immediately in a simple way their data model in a very simple way with templating. And on the same moment, we have our diagrams, like our flow diagram. That means on the same moment, this in-depth professional guy is extremely seeing, okay, can I live with this one? And we can go very deep with our UML, BVML stuff, what we did in the past. I think this is maybe the most secret, doing it in a dynamic way.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the ideal platform for an agile development.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? Means the speed of the business now is not constrained by the speed of the technology that underpins the business. So you can move as quick, you can move together as opposed to having to wait 6 months for some changes to be done by the IT department.
This is where you connect the dots. It's the crucial part. And immediately you see your rules, the benefit of your rules, everything what normally was isolated in your mind, you see it here. And on the same moment, we see our traditional elements, our capture diagram. What about your entity relations? Now in Baan, we had it inside, but you could not see it. But now, and it was stored in our logic, like in concrete. Now, and all those elements give you a tremendous flexibility with your lean manufacturing.
Yeah.
Now, and that allows me immediately to control everything. Suppose if you go to, now, how are you dealing with your emails? What elements are there in? How are you dealing? A lot of benefits can be immediately used. You said you can go here from your users' stories, see your email, going to have all those elements, your visualization. Now, the same with your UI. Now, Valeo like to do it this way, but Solvay like to do it. We learned a lot, but say, yeah, we like it, but not green. We like it blue and not on the other side. That means they've seen the benefit, what we did in the last 10 years is Valeo. They encapture that, but then they had the flexibility to do it their way. Now, in color concept, say, we like to do it this way, or now that gives us the flexibility also on the UX part to incorporate your knowledge in a much easier way to implement your systems.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, very good.
Now, and then here you can see, okay, how you do your screens, your incident, what means it, how you're going to your incident, how to search and figure out all this stuff. That now, in a very, very easy way, business people now can handle this instead of techies. And the same business people now, and they could do because now these 4GL tools are open because we are using all our, say, open source elements to use them and adopt them in this way. Now that makes it in a very flexible way and going to this architectural stuff. Now let's go to the architectural. Now what is then crucial? Today is extremely crucial that you should have a factory. First, your architectural elements, like you do your loosely coupled microservice architecture, your lightweight containers, your REST API, all say consumerized elements. I spent millions for state machines. Now we have our stateless services for nothing in this REST API. We have our full managed databases with DevOps, with automated stuff like our API-driven. API-driven, the connectivity driven to connects, the containerization, the process, like edge computing, serverless. Now, that allows me to do. I did it already in Cordys. We were already one of the masters in all those cloud stuff. But now we see you should be totally cloud native with this digital guidance, your DevOps, your delivery, your containers, your microservices with stateless REST API, lightweight containers. Now, and now I have the benefit, 90% is free or very cheap for me available by Google. In Cordys, I have to do everything myself. And now I'm only connecting an Amazon, or I'm connecting a Google for all those consumerized stuff. Yep.
Do I see when I'm looking at this, you know, when you were using a phone back in the 90s, you know, like those big phones, cell phones.
Yeah.
You know, you had to get, there was no music, there was no applications, you needed your computer. But you know, today you have the iPhone.
Yeah.
And I mean, just a metaphor, but is the direction that you're taking is kind of the iPhoneization of the technology?
Exact. What you see, we call it mass customizing. And means and everything in the iPhone is generic, it's cheap, it's incorporated, and by the way, it's free, but I cannot change it. But as a user, I can change everything.
Yeah.
Because every iPhone is the same on shipping. But 1 second before you pick up the iPhone and I pick my iPhone, both of us are consumerized for ourselves. It's mass customizing. Then it means, and now we, with Porter coming back in the beginning, maybe this slide a little, what I moved here, this is a big benefit. Now, we all became the same. And here we are for a while the same, but now we see the opposite way. Although we have maybe all the same iPhone, but we can do our business in a differentiated way.
Exactly. So you have a common platform that enables you to be different from everyone
exactly.
else.
Now that's what, but you like to be only different maybe for 20%, and 80% to generic, but the 20% is making 80% of your profit.
Yeah, I mean, this is where the differentiation is key. I mean, you don't build a $1 trillion business by making good financials, so you don't spend a lot of time on it. But where the value is, then you can push the value, you know, and you can go to the cloud and to the moon with that. So that's an amazing thing.
Now, and Porter was amazing stuff, but he was isolated, and even Peter Drucker was more aware. Peter Drucker predicted already in last century, 95, that the productivity of the knowledge work can be doubled. And Porter is only looking on a simple optimizations here, with the simplicity of the silos, because he never became after the silos, and he never became aware that it will not handle because there is not end-to-end data.
Yeah.
Now, every company moved to the same. That's what we're doing. Yeah,
exactly. No, it's you know, I mean, speaking with, I have seen a lot of your talks, but now, you know, speaking with you, I can see it better. I can feel it. It's exactly where you're going, and it's amazing because it's the liberalization of the technology, and like you say, understanding what matters and what does not matter to the same extent, but giving a tool so that you can do everything you need, you know, the kitchen, and you can do a nice filet mignon on top with a glass of champagne.
Exactly. And what you now do, say, why is it the market cap? Now, let me say, in old IT worlds, if you have a company with 100 million revenue, and maybe they spend 3%, maybe innovative companies, 3% of IT, that means 3 million. Maybe suppose that with new technology, I can do it half the price. I can save only 1 million, 1.5 million. But in this case, this company can grow twice faster. They can double the EBITDA because they need half of the employees to do because the productivity of the knowledge worker will increase, but at the other end, they do it in a much more unique way. They can compete, the competitor cannot follow them longer. And maybe 2 years from now, they have no longer 100 million revenue, but 200 million revenue. But then they're not 10 million EBITDA, but 40 million EBITDA. And the market cap is not 1 times the revenue, but maybe 5 times the revenue or 10 times the revenue. It's more than 1 billion, and 10 times more. You know, there is maybe it's very little can we with the deployment of IT today, we can reach very limited, maybe 1% of the revenue. But here we can triple the market cap.
I mean, what the dimension that you bring is the intangible side of the business, and that's where companies like Apple, 96% of their value is intangible.
Exactly.
And what is bridging the gap? I think through your application, and that must be part of your value proposition. And I would like to talk to you a bit more about that. Maybe you will touch it.
Yeah.
But the value proposition is there's no IP value intangible if there's no connection of throughout the whole system in a way that is explicit and in a way that is intentional. And I think you bring that bridge and that flow where now you can go to a company, not only you can help me to increase an EBITDA, but you can help me to increase the intangible value of my business in a way that I can substantiate to the market.
Yeah, and you build maybe say this specific say business knowledge to compete tremendous, but maybe it's only 10% or 20%. You reduce, you have the benefit of this generic one and the latest one, because now we cannot use this for the business. We use SAP and Oracle and Baan for the old stuff, 40 years old, 30 years old.
Yeah.
And we cannot use latest technology. That's one element. But at the other end is the unique elements is to make it specific, to optimize it. Now then quick, we can store it in an easy way, because you can even have many departments can be on-prem. Now all those technology stuff is so simple now. It's agnostic. Now, and second, we have all this database and big data, all those elements and methodology. They are consumerized. If you look to this, let me go quick a little, real consumerized. Now, they can use my tools, but they can even edit their own tools and inherit it, and they can be independent. Now, they can totally, they generate and regenerate, and we even decouple the bespoke part if needed. What you do this, not bespoke, this individual Java stuff, but it can even optimize it. Now, and then we see the crucial part, especially now with the Russians, with the cybersecurity, people, we are not in one data bubble. And that's what we're doing now. Underneath, we have even could be Azure of Microsoft, Amazon, especially Google. Now, that is safe, these data centers, but we're making a lot of troubles with this logic, what we do today. Now, what we learned, and we did the last years, especially with big companies, with Solvay, we built one landing zone. And all those microservices are dangerous. If they do it their own, they have then even, a very handy-made element to do it. Now, that means on top of it, you have one landing zone. And in the landing zone, I offer you, as a knowledge worker, a lot of functionalities. You have not to deal with governance, with organization resource, how to manage access, how to report. Now, and on the same moment, you have one landing zone encrypted, and everything in the heart of Google is in one bubble. Now, and that gives us tremendous element now where we see the Russians are attacking us in this world, in what we do with the handicraft way. Although we have, say, the digital giants are safe, they cannot connect the digital giants, but they connect every company where we have this handicraft data modeling.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's very, very compelling.
Now, and that's what we did in Solvay. We fixed a lot of those stuff here in, and they, through Valeo, we came with Solvay still at 26,000 employees companies, and they like to real control all this stuff therein. Now, what we say on infrastructure, we can do on-premise, high scaling, performance, reducing hosts. We can deal with now more juniors immediately can join the team, much more effective. We standardize it and no vendor lock-in and bring it back. Now, this maybe in a nutshell, let me show you for a minute what we do a little in our EVA stuff.
Are you frustrated with slow application development?
I take one glass of water.
Hampering innovation? High license costs? Looking to build cloud-native applications easily without these challenges? Time to meet EVA, the Rapid Application Development Framework. EVA builds the right solution faster through accelerating the building of advanced enterprise business applications at scale. Rebuilding complex applications to newer cloud technologies, and providing a cloud automation layer on top of your existing ERP with everything done fast using Google Cloud via smart requirements gathering, visualizing, instant prototyping, and rapid code generation. Based on the best development practices, EVA generates top-class source code for the actual application, optimized for lower hosting costs, data security, auto-scaling, and fast performance. With EVA, the code can be further extended and customized, allowing the business analyst and developer to work collaboratively, increasing productivity. Customers own the generated code completely, as EVA is based on open standards and open source libraries, and supporting multi-cloud, having no vendor lock-in nor licensing costs. The EVA-made applications retain lower total cost of ownership, as EVA generates on average 50 to 75% code from analysts' inputs and utilizes existing reusable libraries for every crucial function. Recommended by enterprise software experts, EVA is the right step for rapid application development. Let EVA do the heavy lifting while you focus on the fun part.
Yeah, now I think now that is maybe, and let me now give you some examples. What we especially did in one element is this Microsoft replacement. Now that's first, if you look to Valeo. In my opinion, it's one of the leading companies in the world. Tesla cannot build cars if there is no Valeo. The only way for them to do this driving assistance, they need this support from Valeo. And they need this wiper of Valeo, where the number one in wipers, in lightning. Now, 110,000 employees, 115,000. 33 countries, 184 factories, and those factories are working as one. They all make one product together. That means it's 184 building only a few products themselves on the end, assembled at the most innovative companies because they do millions of research, more than BMW and the other ones. They only assemble the car.
Yeah.
And they need the aftermarket. Now, therefore, they have 55 research centers for years. And on this moment, 25,000 users are doing project control around the research. And they have a big problem. They could not store that in SAP, and they even were afraid to make SAP too complicated. That means years ago, they decided to do this in Microsoft and in SharePoint, but they struggled tremendously in 8 years. Now, but they like to do this not in this world, to not make this world 10 times more complicated. And because this is very innovative, what they do, big projects. Now, over time, in the last years, we spent 10 years, the last 10 years, in very innovative with them. And they ask us on top of this Microsoft solution to, on Microsoft project, to build add-ons totally in what we did in our Java environment as workflow. And we built big data, machine learning, etc. One was on top of it to have to manage my projects, my product workload, my timesheets, where I do millions of hours in a month doing this stuff and have only the consolidating part here and not the stuff here. I have my user profile, depth capacity, advanced projects. Now, then he had a problem because this was real frustrating for them, not scaling. And there's still only 4,000 users over from the 25,000 using these core modules of Microsoft.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
Now, they pay not too much, but 1 million in costs every year. And they came to the conclusion, say, now we like to replace this one. And they looked around them and they found in the world 5 other ones, maybe here one, in the cloud, 5 ones who could do more or less what they were looking for real in the cloud for the same cost. 1 million subscription a year. Now, they like this one, but what was then the problem? Then they have a separate solution. They have a locked in one of their 5 solutions. This is not locked in. This is only for them plain Java code. And this may be not optimized with this one. And we offer them and say, why can we not do this for you? Now, you know then, procurement is extremely important with this company. And the CIO and the guys are a little afraid, if we are making a failure, then they are blamed. if they're making a failure here, they are not blamed.
Yeah.
Now, therefore, why should they pay here? They pay still the same amount, 1 million a year, like the same amount here was 1 million a year. Now,
yeah.
We offer them, then say, okay, I can understand this is a little risky for you if we cannot do it on time. And what happens? Because we have to build it from scratch only for you. We use the same functionality. Now, what should be your choice? and they made a choice, one of the five, we say, make a choice, what do you find the best of this one? And if we then make in 3 months for you a prototype of a minimum viable project. That's what we did. In 3 months, we built a minimum viable product with our tools, and we say, now we like to do it in 3 months. That means if we are failing, you have still a lot of knowledge, and still you can go to one of the 5 vendors.
Yeah.
And you are not real aware. That's maybe the best way to investigate all these vendors. Now, we charge you a little amount, only 250K to do this. But if you agree, you have not to pay then 5 million for the next 5 years. You pay for life, you whole for everlasting, you pay only 250K.
Yeah.
Under one condition, you should be then the first user from all our components. You are already a user with our technology here. If you are still a user here, and we could build everything, not even losing money. We did it in 3 months and built totally this stuff totally. That gives the power of EVA. Now, and now they're so happy, and now they are. Now, and why was it important for me not to make the most attractive money? No, we have now a core user of this one. And they, because we built many projects who were real critical for them, and like we do 1 million claims a year and very advanced projects, but they like to keep that for their own as operational excellence. But this is more an open environment on top of ERP, more downstream in the project control. If other companies can do even with this element, they have the benefit from other companies still, and they like it to that. Now for the first time, we had what we had in Baan, but then only not the master project scheduling, let us say in ERP. Who cares? We win more here. We decouple the ERP part and with the project control part. And we even have it totally linked with 40,000 users. Now, this gives me an amazing platform now to go to bigger customers like an ASML or a Philips. Now, if you're coming to those companies, they say we are big, wait a while, those companies are 10 times bigger than you. Now, I believe this is for us a tremendous important improvement what we accomplished last year for this one. And now we are now rolling it out with EVA together. It means you have 2 elements. Not only that we have EVA on the same moment, we can handle this one. Now, and that was even extremely cheap what we did for them. You like this?
Yeah, I mean, the question I have for you, so at the end of the day, they were spending $1 million a year, and you said over the next 5 years, it's $5 million.
Yeah.
You built the application for 250K.
Yeah.
And now they own it. They are, and so they own the application.
Yeah,
so,
and we own it, and we own it.
And you own,
yeah, we did. We in this case we did it for they owned it before, but we could use the IP, but not owning the knowledge. Now we own all their knowledge. We adopted 25 years of one of the most amazing companies in the world with all their rules and all their regulations and everything what was done, not bad done in Microsoft with critical path, etc., but not complete. Now we have maybe one of the most, I believe, this may be the only product administration with 25,000 users as big data, dynamic workflow on top of 40,000 SAP users.
Yeah. I mean, Jan, is EVA kind of a, I'm just, like I said, a stupid question, sorry for asking. Is it kind of a kind of the window, becoming the operating system for technology development?
Yeah, but more than, first of all, we learn and say, okay, if you look to this modern world, everything should not be .NET, should be Java. Yeah. And then we have Java is the language of the internet. What we did in Baan already, we had like Baan tools were already like Java, the same element. Yeah. Now, if we take Java, everything is open, and on top of it, that means we have all this open source. That means if we deliver it in Java, we cannot charge the companies for a runtime version, and we cannot monopolize these companies by ourselves. But at the other end, we make the threshold so low, and we are making money that our companies are making by far more money in their EBITDA, etc. And they are willing now to pay us a little amount of subscription.
Okay.
And then we can scale it up.
I mean, a question for you. You were referring a couple of slides earlier where, you know, you were kind of showing the slide where you are from a competitive standpoint and looking to move up, you know, in the...
Look here, this one. Yeah, that's here, but 1 second, we have it here. Now, what you see here, sorry, this one, and what we see here, that means those players here, they only have a runtime, and they can only do the limitation in their runtime. In 20% of the time, they do a lot of productivity, but then over time, they have to go back to SAP, where you do in this bar piece, in this SAP stuff, everything. Now, we can incorporate everything and do it on top. Those the same like in Cordys. In Cordys, we have a runtime version, like Pega, like Appian.
So isn't it a key differentiator for you? Because
extremely,
if I look at Microsoft Service now, they are platform, and the more you go in bed with them, the more you're looking yourself up. As opposed to, in your case, you give me the freedom to move. Not only that, bring the IP. Because if you're in bed with Microsoft, Mr. Gates wants to have the billions in his pocket, not in yours. So from an application and an IP valuation, market value creation, you are really an engine there.
Yeah, and another element is important. Let me explain it again in this slide. I even bring a lot of best practice. I translate all the knowledge of, even a PhD in manufacturing, understand totally new stuff of manufacturing components. I translate everything in plain Java. Now, and that is zero defect, and they can learn a lot. They can do by hand the last mile to optimize it. But here I have a lot of, it's running everywhere, but it's also a lot of knowledge where juniors can learn from it, because it's totally generated. And everything like DevOps is included. Testing is included. It's like a manufacturing. I should say the outcome of this one is zero defect. Now, and then I have this one. Let me go here. Maybe we had it here. In this way, they own. Although even I'm generating it, I do it like they have their source code in their pocket.
Wow.
And even I can do, if others can do some things, but I do not know where they can differentiate for another customer of myself with this part.
Yeah.
And this is running everywhere in all those landing zones, and in all those, what you see here is running belong. We are speaking every language from the open source below.
Yeah.
I see all these benefits in manufacturing by GitLab, etc., by Jenkins, and all those. I mean, tomorrow we have another one. We couple the other one. It's not only Java. It's all this. It is agnostic to all the underlying technologies, and it's bringing a lot. Let me say this way. Then here, a lot of stuff. What we do now. Let me see and show you something here. Now, this project control module is running with 400 departments. Some departments have 1,000 team members. I don't know another project control so big like they have it in one company. They have only 100 directors who doing all this analytic stuff every day. 100 directors from the 25,000 users. Now, if we're looking to this stuff. And if you then looking to what we did, we built a very modern way, like you see now in a modern graphical user face, immediately how far is this project, how we dealing with all those stuff. We can manage everything in a totally new way. We can navigate to all those complex projects they're in. With all their experience from the last 25 years. That means we adopted their profession knowledge, but we provide them with modern UI, UX stuff therein, in a totally modern way on your iPhone or anywhere what you are used on this element. With machine learning, with IoT integration. Now, and we have all those, say, modern stuff. That means we have the Google components propelling this one, and even with the libraries, etc. If you look to it. Now, that means they only do 3.5 million lagging hours every month.
Yeah,
in
wow.
this system. Amazing stuff, I should say, what we built to this. I don't see any company in the world who is doing it on one instance, linked in with 40,000 SAP users together, and then they do it all in microservices. I cannot see any company on this moment who is doing it in machine learning, in artificial intelligence, and bringing all this stuff together. Now,
Yeah, that's amazing.
now, here you can see it. Here you see that Eva is generating all those stuff and killing the SharePoint, Visio, cloud, and bring it cloud native. Take care of all those integrations you need with examples. What we did already in their company, we did many examples. We do like appraisal for 85,000 users. We do quality roadmap. We do what we really see, claim handling. They have 8 million claims from all the years what they cover every day therein. Now, and here now we have our IP. This is what Eva is doing. And here we built this project workspace, we can use ourselves with all those knowledge. This Microsoft projects is replaced, and their supply chain partners can still use Microsoft project, because their supply chain partners are not so far yet. No, and then we incorporate the Microsoft project solution still as a workspace, even to bring it together.
Okay.
Now, I believe it could be an example for many world-leading companies, especially in automotive, but everywhere. But could even be a solution for healthcare.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
Now, let's come a little to a conclusion, but you see this. Now, that means what is the core element then? We still respect the old century, if you look what we did with Baan, etc., with SAP, even with Salesforce, is a transactional system. We can incorporate them, we bring them on Google Cloud, and we reduce the license cost, the vendor, we make it a little less dependent, but although it's monolithic, and it is even what we say is totally controlled by them, but we bring it down only for the vanilla part. And we lift and shift this one on the second layer. Eva is the process layer. And in the process layer, we bring competitive advantage, what we mentioned before, totally. And we have the one data stream, that is even maybe very important, what you mentioned in the beginning. Here we make a data activity with all those stuff immediately in it. This is what you mentioned in the beginning.
Yeah.
What we do here. And then with the cloud on top, but then we bring one step further, this micro apps, and that's Collabor. And Collabor is a very simple workflow for users. It's replacing the SharePoint stuff. Now let me go for a minute and show what we do here. That's extremely user-centric. You do it in minutes. In minutes on your own device. You can even change your stuff for the task, what you have to do tomorrow to win the tender. Now, and what we do in Collabor, maybe 1 second, very more on the workflow part. Let me go in 2 seconds, 2 minutes.
Challenging market conditions to improve their processes. Businesses need new apps and software extensions. These new apps are expected to modernize and streamline their enterprise IT landscape. But with too many initiatives, lack of resources and developer skills, and a huge backlog, IT gets under stress and starts saying no to many initiatives or delays new projects. Is there a way out? Can non-technical people build apps themselves without any support? Collabor provides a no-code, low-code enterprise mobility platform to quickly build mini applications, so-called micro apps, which can run independently and also on top of a diverse IT landscape in a cost-effective way. Diverse IT systems means a user has to sign into multiple systems to complete a process. Collabor offers an alternative way to complete a process from a single environment, a central web application, or a container app on mobile, delivering simplified processes with reduced manual steps via standalone apps and apps integrated with back-end systems, supporting multi-devices and offline capabilities. Micro apps development is simplified with Collabor. You can create a specific purpose micro app with a set of visual designers and many pre-built features to choose from. Register web services and expose the APIs to integrate with any external system. Define user roles and access rights and share apps with others. Download the micro apps on your mobile, work offline and sync back later. And importantly, Collabor integrates smoothly on top of your existing enterprise systems, offering mobility and simplifying interactions. So Collabor offers an environment that makes it easy to build, use and manage apps, provides improved enterprise workflow, provides a no-code, low-code approach to compose mobile apps easily, and supports multi-devices and offline capabilities.
Now, that's where we see the Collabor part, and coming now in a summary where we see now EVA is democratizing the real development environment, lifecycle, etc., prototyping, all those stuff. You own your own source code, no vendor lock-in. Now, that's what we do with our team. Ramanathan was already working for me. This year is now 35 years working for me in India. He was running all our Indian stuff. My 3 sons, yeah, you met Atyan. And if you look Atyan here, my son Paul, financial, Atyan operations, and my youngest son Bernard, he's even running the castle and do marketing.
Yeah.
And these guys already were in Baan, in Cordys, etc., and doing this stuff, my CTO. Now, and my value is in even my people in India if you're coming there. Now, coming to a conclusion, we are small, but we moved from 100 to 180 people, but we have from the 180 people, 160 engineers. And the guys from Google can even help us in selling, etc. Now, I believe that gives already, and we show that we can build like in 3 months a totally project together. I say this is a little our benefit, and the guys we have and what we do in these areas. Now, coming to a conclusion, I should say now 2 elements. In this area, let me wrap it up a little. Now, you are only of a few in the world who have followed me so long. Not only from the 90s already, supporting very much my ERP system, Baan, but even you were a guy who was in the most important user group, the American user group, sharing that, and spent many times around the world, even learning from the otherwise, say, all these companies, and I've seen this one, and I see the benefit of Baan. Second, you've seen this in Cordys, and now you follow all these elements. Now, I think it could be a real element also in your role. We never know, also for our supply chain anywhere, using your resources and knowing that one, but because you are one of the few in the world who is able to bridge, I should say, this whole story. You've been here, you've seen that, now you know a little the benefit, what we did here and what we put here, and all my hundreds of millions of investments, I should say, that's paid, but even I burned my ships and I took all the consumer rights stuff, but I've been here, otherwise I could not use it. And then we have brought this open text from 2008 already on my private label again. I quit from here again. I burned again my ships. I burned here my ships. But if I did not burn my ships, I never could build this one. Now we are maybe still small, but high promising, could be another unicorn, is what we do in 2 elements. The EVA part as only generating part. This is a simple platform on the front on it, and then this project space, and then going to the real digital enterprise. Now, I think this is, and come a little to conclusion, bring a little your feedback here, but maybe we can conclude here a little. How are you looking to this?
I think what you're doing is technically a lot of talk has been about replacing human in the enterprise.
Yep.
By technology, I think what you're doing is providing human a tool to make human happier and be part of the development. So you're technically reversing what many people in the technology have been trying to do, replace human. You're making human more important. You're providing them the tool. You bring freedom into the organization by unlocking them from being stuck with applications that they may not like. And you bring an opportunity to crystallize the intellectual property into the business as opposed to give the value to someone else. I really like I mean, I've been following you for many years. I really like where you're going with that. I like the tools of collaboration, Collabor and EVA. I think you're very well positioned, and it's a nice product evolution that you've been going through, it's very interesting, but
And by the way, time to come soon in Pertinent again. I have now a real optimized room in the castle. It will be nice if you're coming there and we can have a good drink and even celebrate some things. But I really appreciate also your input because you are able to bridge. And what we do, maybe for the first time now, we have a beachhead for the business.
Yeah.
And the beachhead for the business cannot be reached by Google. They can provide us with tools, and they like us very much. Together we bring a unique situation, because then we have the scalability, the cheap element, the consumerized part, etc. And still we know this old world from this Baan stuff, because ERP is still existing, if you like it or not, but still there.
Yeah. And one thing before leaving here is, you've been talking about Michael Porter, Peter Drucker,
yeah.
But I think you underestimate the contribution that you've done, because what it shows going from 1978 to 2022 is you always have been looking to go above and beyond, not digging in the hole, but going up. And that's a very strong quality of yours, you know, to look up for what's up, what's next, and you're providing a very, very strong value proposition to any companies that will work with you.
But I can only do this because all my people are still, my core people are the same. They followed me. The core people followed me over the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And that's still, and they adopted with me all the time new technology. I'm only maybe a little on the helm, but I'm more working for them to motivate them. It's also what we have a little, what we call our famous Baan culture. There's freedom of opinion.
Yeah.
Others than in the traditional American company of Indian culture or Indian company, you know, a little. It looks freedom, but there's no freedom because it's more dictated from the top. And I think this is really an environment for innovation.
Yeah. So that's great, Jan. I'm very happy that we took the time to go through that together. It's a privilege. I'm very happy to have done this. We have spent a lot of time at the beginning of the 90s. We met a bit in between, but now it's a privilege for me to take an hour with you, and that you walk me through. That's kind of a gift of God for me.
Okay, Jan, thank you very much. And I really appreciate it. And nice that we recorded this. That means now we can also maybe what we promise a little our audience, and it could be also interesting discussions maybe to the audience. I'm real pleased because I believe there is a lot of value. Not everything is perfect, but at least it's now we have it available to where people could have access to it. Thank you very much. We talk soon and we discuss further.
Thank you. Have a great day and have a great
good weekend. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Nice meeting you again, and looking forward. Take care.
Extend my salutations to Arjan and the family.
I do that, and take care, and all the best, Anna, and enjoy it, and enjoy your weekends. All the best.
Thank you, and we'll talk.
Yeah, Jan, all the best. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay.